Well, there are a lot of issues associated with internet voting, no question about it. And on the other hand, there is evidence that it can work. And there have been successful pilots in Arizona, in Utah, in West Virginia, with the military, and others. Estonia has been providing online internet voting for more than 10 years with no security issues. Now, admittedly, they have a national ID, which makes it a little bit easier, actually makes it a lot easier. But when we have the military, which is one of the most emotional parts of the issues that I talked about, in 1967, I was in the Army, and that year, 54,000 American soldiers were killed. There were many, many more than that overseas. They couldn't vote. In 1986, President Reagan signed a bill that said, fix this. And here we are 30 years later, and it still isn't fixed. And there are ways to do this. Alabama has just been now the first state to introduce real-time online voting, click here to vote for this person system for the military overseas. So I believe it can be done. There are a lot of issues that people talk about, but there are ways to solve these issues. It is possible. How could it not be possible? If we can put a piece of equipment on Mars and take pictures, we can't figure out how to use the internet to be able to vote. Now, I realize there are issues that it's different than e-commerce. It is different than e-commerce. And the difference is that if somebody steals your credit card or breaks into your Amazon account and buys something, you'll know it and you can reverse it. If somebody breaks into your whatever you use to vote on the internet and steals your vote, then you won't know it. That's a valid argument. But my point of view, and I'll stop with this point, is that comparing internet voting to a perfect system, which we will never, ever have, is the primary dialogue that I observed in my research for this book, is a comparison between internet voting and a perfect system. No comparisons between internet voting and what we have today, which is terrible and is not accurate. And it is disenfranchising to millions of people. We can do better. So what your question, Derek, was, what's holding it back? There's no political will. If you look at congressmen between 1964 and 2014, their re-election rate is 93%. That's their priority, to stay elected. They have very good jobs with free parking and great pensions and other things. And so they don't necessarily want it to be easier to vote. So there's no political will pushing it. And at the same time, there's a lot of critics of internet voting. There are no proponents of internet voting. I hope to change that, to attract more people to this point of view and try to deflect some of the criticism energy, which is abundant, into more constructive energy to say, today on the plane coming out here, I read this article, 7 ways to hack the election system. Why couldn't there be an article that says 7 things you can do to prevent your server from being attacked? So it's a perspective. It's an attitude. That's why I called the book Election Attitude.